memory of loading it. He had no memory of even signing it out. The book he had gone to bed with was back on the shelf. He noted that it was sitting next to another title by the same author. The fuzziness he'd felt on waking had been replaced by a hangover-like headache. The metallic taste in his mouth remained, more bile than blood, he noted, as he turned his attention back to the body, to the dead man on his floor. Clean-shaven with a square jaw, chiselled as if from rock, the deceased male was partially propped up against the wall opposite where Jack slept. The hole in the plasterboard above the body was the size and shape of his head. Eyes open and pupils enlarged, the dead man sat in a pool of blood. His fingers were splayed and stiff. Rigor mortis, dead for at least 4 hours. Jax scanned his room. One entry and exit point. He then looked at the body. He considered the victim's path. He considered the killer's path. He stood and shuffled left, stopping when he reached the adjacent wall. He hugged the plasterboard as he tiptoed along the carpet. Keeping to the base of the wall to avoid contaminating the scene, he was soon close enough to touch the body. He extended his arm and placed the back of his index finger on the victim's neck. The man was cold, but still warmer than the room. Dead for at least 4 hours, but no more than 8. He looked at the man's eyes. He did not have a flashlight, but knew the oversized pupils would not react if he did. It was, however, bright enough for him to note the whites were lightly bloodshot and slightly yellow in the corner. The Kevorkian sign. He had only read about it once, but that was enough for him to remember it. He would need a thermometer and access to the man's anus to establish the exact time of death, but the rigor mortis, his touch test, and the opacity of the eyes told him that the man had expired sometime between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. He retraced his steps and returned to the bed. Jax turned his attention to the blood spatter. Gun still in his hand, standing beside his bed, he studied his walls and then his ceiling. He did the maths, taking into account the man's size, what he knew about speed and impact, which was more than most, and the specs of the only weapon in the room. It all added up. The size of the hole in the wall, the blood spatter, the position of the body, and the time of death all indicated the man had been killed right here, in this room. The numbers did not lie. While blood could be flicked and bodies could be repositioned, figures could not be fudged. The dead man had been standing in the centre of Jax's room when the first round had been fired into his skull. The blood spatter on the ceiling and the entry wounds on the corpse indicated the round had struck with force, the impact of the kill shot snapping the man's head back and to the left. He'd been falling when the second round had hit him in the heart. Thumping into the left side of his chest, the force of that shot changed the body's path, sending it slightly to the right. The wall broke his fall and left him propped up, sitting. The blood spatter on the wall above the victim's head had come from the exit wound caused by that second bullet. Detectives would find one bullet lodged in the wall behind the body and the other in the back of the corpse's brain. Jax looked back at his gun, his Glock, at the murder weapon. He suddenly felt cold, numb. His mind went quiet. He began to sway as he looked at the ground. His boots snapped him out of the trance. They were shined to perfection and tied tight, but he could not remember putting them on. Book in hand, he had flicked off his thongs and swung his bare feet onto the bed. Jax slapped himself in the face. It didn't help. He still couldn't remember putting his boots on, nor could he remember killing a man. And that was impossible. For Reilly, Jax remembered everything. He had never forgotten a thing in his life. Until now. Chapter 1. Saint-Étienne du Rouvray, Normandy, France. Alhamdulillah, he said, before the bald man scanned the